What if I told you that every single moment you spend trying to become bulletproof, you're actually making yourself more fragile? What if the very strategies you use to protect yourself are the exact reasons you keep getting destroyed by words, silences, and the smallest rejections? You've been living a lie, and today that lie ends. Think about it. How many nights have you lain awake, replaying conversations, dissecting every gesture, every tone, wondering why you can't just let things go? How often have you promised yourself you'd stop caring so much, only to find yourself right back in that same emotional tornado the next time someone disappoints you? Here's what nobody wants to admit. You're not weak for feeling everything so deeply. You're unconscious, and there's a massive difference between the two. If this resonates with you, hit that subscribe button now. What I'm about to share will challenge everything you think you know about emotional strength. Most people walk through life believing they're victims of circumstance. They think their pain comes from out there, from cruel comments, broken promises, unexpected betrayals. But Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in psychology, understood something that most people never grasp. We are not what happens to us, but what we choose to become. Here's the brutal truth that might sting at first. Nothing outside of you has any real power to wound you unless there's already a crack inside waiting to be split open. Let me say that again, because it's going to change everything for you. The reason that comment devastated you isn't because it was particularly cruel. The reason that rejection felt like death isn't because you needed that specific person's approval. The reason you're still angry about something that happened months ago isn't because what they did was unforgivable. It's because these external events are hitting internal wounds that you've never properly addressed. Every time you react instead of respond, every time you spiral instead of staying centered, every time you take something personally that has nothing to do with you, that's your unconscious mind running the show. And until you make the unconscious conscious, as Jung said, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Think about the people you know who seem genuinely unshakable. Not the ones who pretend nothing affects them while secretly falling apart, but the ones who maintain their center no matter what chaos erupts around them. What's their secret? They've done the work. They've faced their inner patterns. They've integrated their shadows. But here's where most people get it completely wrong. They think becoming emotionally strong means building thicker walls, developing selective hearing, or training themselves not to care. They think resilience means becoming cold, detached, invulnerable. This is exactly backwards. Real emotional strength doesn't come from avoiding pain, it comes from understanding it. It doesn't come from numbing yourself. It comes from feeling everything fully while maintaining your awareness. It doesn't come from protecting yourself from the world. It comes from knowing yourself so deeply that the world's opinions become irrelevant. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming who you really are, not who you think you should be. And it's the most challenging thing you'll ever do because it requires you to face everything you've been running from. Your fears, your insecurities, your shame, your neediness, all the parts of yourself you've labeled as unacceptable and shoved into the darkness. But here's what's incredible about this process. The moment you stop running from these parts of yourself and start integrating them, they lose their power to control you. When you're no longer at war with your own emotions, external events can't use them as weapons against you. This is why some people can handle devastating situations with grace, while others crumble at the slightest criticism. It's not about what happens, it's about what it activates inside you. And this brings us to perhaps the most uncomfortable truth of all. You're still suffering so much because you're still trying to control how the world treats you. You're still operating under the illusion that if you just be good enough, smart enough, strong enough, understanding enough, people will handle you with care. But control is a fantasy, and as long as you're clinging to it, you'll live in constant anxiety, trying to predict the unpredictable, trying to manage the unmanageable. Real freedom begins when you realize that everything coming from outside only has power if it finds an echo within you. And that echo exists in your unconscious, in all the unexamined beliefs, unprocessed traumas, and unintegrated aspects of yourself. This is where the real battlefield lies. Not out there in the world of difficult people and challenging circumstances, but in here, in the depths of your own psyche. Most people have no idea that their unconscious mind is making decisions for them every single day. They think they're choosing how to react, but they're actually just playing out ancient patterns that were formed when they were too young to understand what was happening. That's why you keep attracting the same type of toxic relationships. That's why you sabotage yourself just when things start going well. That's why you have emotional reactions that seem completely disproportionate to whatever triggered them. Your unconscious is trying to wake you up, but you keep hitting the snooze button. Jung understood that we cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. So all those years you've spent judging yourself for being too sensitive or too emotional, that's just been another form of resistance. The path to becoming truly untouchable requires radical self-acceptance. Not the kind where you pretend everything about yourself is perfect, but the kind where you acknowledge your flaws, your wounds, your patterns, and choose to work with them instead of against them. This is what integration means. It's bringing everything from the darkness into the light. It's saying to your fear, your anger, your shame, I see you, I understand why you're here, and you no longer get to drive. When you integrate your shadow, all the parts of yourself you've rejected, you become whole. And when you're whole, you stop being reactive. You observe instead of absorbing. You respond instead of reacting. You choose instead of getting chosen for. But I need to be honest with you about what this journey looks like, because it's not all enlightenment and inner peace. Individuation is brutal. It requires you to die to everything you thought you were so that who you really are can emerge. You'll have to face the fact that much of your identity has been a performance designed to keep you safe and loved. You'll have to let go of the stories you've told yourself about who's to blame for your pain. You'll have to take full responsibility for your emotional life, even when it feels unfair. And here's the lonely part. As you grow, you'll naturally outgrow certain relationships, environments, and ways of being. Not everyone can handle your authenticity. Not everyone wants to go that deep. But this isn't rejection, it's evolution. You're not becoming difficult, you're becoming real. And real people naturally repel those who are still hiding behind masks. The good news is that on the other side of this process, you discover something extraordinary. When you're no longer afraid of your own emotions, other people's emotions can't devastate you. When you've made peace with your shadows, other people's projections bounce right off you. When you know who you are at your core, external validation becomes nice but unnecessary. This is what Jung meant when he talked about the self, not the ego with all its needs and fears, but the deeper, more stable part of you that remains constant regardless of circumstances. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more deeply you accept your own pain, the less pain you experience. The more fully you embrace your vulnerability, the more genuinely strong you become. The more honestly you face your limitations, the more unlimited your potential becomes. But none of this happens automatically. Consciousness is a choice you make moment by moment, day by day. It's choosing to look within when your instinct is to look for someone to blame. It's choosing to feel your feelings fully instead of numbing them. It's choosing truth over comfort, growth over safety, authenticity over approval. Jung said that what you resist persists, but what you accept transforms. This is the key to everything. Stop resisting your pain and start learning from it. Stop fighting your emotions and start understanding them. Stop running from your patterns and start changing them. Because here's what I know for certain. You didn't come this far to stay stuck in old cycles. You didn't survive everything you've survived just to keep pretending you're someone you're not. You didn't develop this capacity for deep feeling just to spend your life trying to shut it down. Your sensitivity is not a bug, it's a feature. Your emotional depth is not a weakness, it's a superpower. Your ability to feel everything so intensely is not something to fix, it's something to harness. The world needs people who are awake, integrated, and authentic. It needs people who have done the work to become unshakable, not because they don't care, but because they care so deeply that they've learned to hold it all with wisdom. That's true emotional immunity. Not hardness, but awareness. Not walls, but boundaries. Not indifference, but discernment. If this video has stirred something in you, if you feel that call to go deeper, to stop living on autopilot, to finally become who you really are, write, "I choose consciousness" in the comments below. Let's create a community of people who are ready to do the real work. And the next video in this series will dive even deeper into the practical steps of individuation. You won't want to miss it, because understanding these concepts intellectually is one thing. Knowing how to apply them in your daily life is what actually creates change. See you there, and